Tuesday, December 12th, 2017. This is MMA Junkie Radio's pre-show, the show before the show. I am Ghost. To my left is not George, and to his left, the left of his chair, is MMA Junkie Radio's fight analyst, that is Dan Tom, and back in New York, still alive, Danny Okers.
Still alive.
I am. Hi.
Hey.
It's me.
What's up?
I am glad Danny's okay, by the way. I felt like bad that I came all the way into the show yesterday without knowing that whole ordeal went down. And I was like, oh my goodness.
To be fair, I only knew because he called and yelled at me for not checking in on him.
Yeah.
I didn't even know about it.
How did that conversation go?
Thanks for not checking on me.
Yeah. You
being
asshole.
alive or something.
Yeah, that was basically exactly what I said. But really, I had to ask him a question anyway. But I really didn't know if you were gonna answer or not. I was gonna start the show like when I introed and everything yesterday. If I hadn't talked to you already, I would have started with that, and you guys would have both got the double whack of thanks for not checking if I was dead.
The double whack?
Yeah, I was gonna hit you both at the same time, but because I hit goes with it first, I just didn't do it for the intro when I came in.
Yeah, you did.
What?
Huh?
But yeah, yeah, I mean, my dad kind of worked me up about it yesterday, but it was just like, even if I had come in early, I would have missed it, and I came in for Junkie, and I missed it. So it was one of those things that I wasn't meant to be messed in, like, put in that situation anyway, you know? Like, even if I went about my normal day, I wouldn't have done it. And that's what helps me get back to work, I guess. Just knowing that fact.
Well,
that makes sense.
No, yeah, I was gonna say, well, I'm glad. Regardless, man, I'm just glad.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. And then yesterday, DJ Tony called and just said the exact same thing. I heard about New York. I'm glad to hear that you're okay. Just wanted to reach out and say that. I was like, I really appreciate it. But a couple other people texted me too, and it meant a lot. But I'm good. I'm fine. Think twice to hang out in Port Authority. Not that I did before, but you know, not the best place anyway.
Not the best place. I was gonna say I don't remember like my times living in New York ever hanging around Port Authority too much aside from going through it. But
I don't even know what the hell Port Authority is.
Sounds like everyone
talk about it. It sounds like a bus station or something.
It is. It's a big, but it's bigger than any bus station you can think of because they have local buses that go throughout New York City and buses that go from New York to New Jersey, places all over the state of New Jersey. And then on top of that, they have buses that go all across the country because they have the Greyhound station there. So it's two separate buildings connected by a walkway. It's just like
Danny,
it's bigger than any bus station you've ever been to.
You're gonna get really mad.
Come up in 30.
When George walked in, it distracted me, and I stopped listening. Start one more time. Here's what I heard. It was like a bus station with Greyhounds or something, and then I was looking at George because he made this funny face. And
it's the biggest bus station you can think of is the easiest way to say that. You're coming up in 15 seconds. But, that's basically what it is.
Why isn't it just called the bus station, then?
Because it's Port Authority. It's the first thing that you hit when you come into the city. We're coming up. Stand by.
This is your captain speaking. We are making our descent into Las Vegas McCarran Airport. On behalf of our crew, we'd like to thank you for flying MMA Junkie Airlines. Now please fasten your seatbelts and put your tray tables in your upright position because the descent is going to be a little bit bumpy.
Alright, Junkie Nation, it's time to roll, baby, on MMA Junkie Radio with Gorgeous George and Go. This is what we do and why we do it, baby. All night long, we rollin'! Yeah!
The MMA Junkie Radio revolution is upon us.
Can you dig it?
There's no escape. No escape. Through the vast frontier of cyberspace and through a sea of stars in outer space.
One small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
We've solidified our combat communications stranglehold.
We are controlling transmission.
With the use of MMA Junkie Radio and Sirius XM satellite radio technology, MMA Junkie Radio. Commence transmission. Live from MMA Junkie Radio HQ in the fight capital of the world, Las Vegas, Nevada. Here are your hosts, Gorgeous George and Goes.
From the fight capital of the world, inside the beautiful Mandalay Bay Racing Sportsbook, you are listening to the MMA Junkie Radio Show, the only show that matters. I'm your host, Gorgeous George. With me, as always, is the devious and dastardly Goes, our co-host, Dan Tom, our latest edition. He's the fight analyst. Back east, Danny Otto will be producing the show. It's Tuesday, December 12th. What up, cuz?
What's everybody all about today?
Shoots.
Shoots?
Bruh.
All right, George.
I'm all about, I had a shitty breakfast.
Huh.
On my behalf, I wanted it. I just had an apple. The scale has not been friendly to me, so I had to take a stand. And therefore, I can't wait to have a good show and then enjoy a nutritious lunch.
Nice.
Just to kind of get me going.
What are you going to do to make up for that apple?
I don't know. That's a good question.
It's got
I have a lunch
See,
packed.
I always have to have it in my head.
I have a lunch packed, but I could easily be strayed. But if I am strayed, because that's a nutritious lunch sitting right there, about 5 meters away. If I stray from that, then guess what I'm having for dinner? Another apple, or just some piece of fruit, or veggies, and pay the price, you know. But if I have my nutritious lunch, then dinner can be also nutritious. So depends how I want to play this one out. I did some work on the rankings late last night, early this morning. So that was a little bit on my mind. Trying to shore up a little bit of the scheduling. There's a lot of people that have reached out over the past few weeks, and I just got to hit them back and boom, get that done, kind of get caught up a little bit more. Because, you know, we hustled through this week, and next week we have the last of our set of days off before the Christmas holiday.
Oh, it's already coming up, huh?
Yeah, it is. And then when we come back from the Christmas holiday, it's straight into UFC 219.
Yeah.
So I just want to close out the year strong, and we're already 3 days from being halfway through December.
Did you guys like 2017?
No, my knee fucking ruined it.
I did?
Yeah. Throw that out, and pretty good year, but I can't throw it out. So, no.
I like 2017.
I
from your knee.
Overall, I like 2017 because at least for Dan Tom, it's going to be a really important for a year for me in retrospect. But it was also a very hard year, a very busy year that kind of blew by. I don't feel like I got to enjoy it because I felt like it went by so fast.
Yeah, it did, huh?
And as for MMA, well, maybe I'm more interested to hear your guys' answer on that. But MMA, it kind of presents an even different answer, doesn't it? If we're asking how this year stacks up to recent years,
it depends what kind of fan you are, right?
Yeah.
Do you remember when GSP and Anderson Silva were just wrecking shop, and all we wanted was for one of them to lose, and you just kind of waited for that? I kind of actually miss that, having a champion that reigns for a good while. We've been seeing so many belts change hands that I kind of miss that old feeling, because it made you look forward to every fight.
And when people were jumping weights, it felt different too. I mean,
the weight classes, a lot of weight class jumping.
I mean, I'm not going to get into the same examples I always bring up of BJ Couture, but speaking of Anderson, I mean, Anderson did it for not belts. Remember, he did it just to save the UFC promotion, to go head to head with Affliction. You know, going up to fight James Irvin at 205. I mean, the stuff that's kind of not that it's not unheard of. We can think of examples if we sit down and think about it. But with the whole contracts and all these other stuff in light of 2017 MMA, kind of. It makes us think different when we go back and reflect at those times, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, as far as MMA, I think I have a different take than most.
Okay.
I actually enjoyed it. Even, believe it or not, McGregor, Mayweather, I just feel like someday when I'm super old, because I'm already old, but when I'm really, really old, I think I can look back and go, back in 2017, the craziest thing, almost like the way Josh Gross wrote a book over Ali and Inoki, or Rick Rosen when he showed us, a ticket to the same event.
I'm jealous.
Even before the book, you're like, wow, and there's been other, combat sports athletes that have, settled their scores or whatever. Some in entertainment, some in sporting. But I think we can look back and say, wow, we were there. We covered it. We had a lot of people that were attached to the fight on this show. And so it was unique, and I'm glad it happened. Now, when I start hearing McGregor-Pacquiao, again, I'm not hating on that kid's hustle, all right? But let me just put out some truths out there. If it happens, then I believe he needs to vacate 155.
I think he needs to vacate MMA. You're enough already.
Well, I mean, you wouldn't welcome him back to MMA?
What's the point? Like, what is he going to do when he comes back? Who do you give him? You're not going to give him the number 5 ranked guy. And
no, that's the thing, though.
So now what do you do? Like, he basically runs MMA if he comes back and just gets what he wants.
Yeah, right? He does. I mean, he does run MMA, so he would have to vacate, and then when he comes back, similar to GSP, he'd probably get right to the front of the line. What would you like? 45, 55, or even a catch? Maybe the catchweight Diaz when he come back or something.
He would be the new Brock Lesnar, because he basically comes in, does what he wants. He doesn't have to fight all these house shows or all. He just shows up for the big pay-per-views. That's who he would be.
I like
Question is, are you okay with it? Are you not? Obviously, I'm going to tune in and I'm going to be excited.
Well,
but at the same time,
but unlike Brock,
right?
Okay, so Brock was sheer power and size, and the techniques, came along. I mean, there was a top game to him, and some ground and pound, but it's not like you saw a variety. You got to admit, man. You have to put up with a lot with Conor. Late press conferences. Lots of jibber-jabber. Lots of bullshit. Lots of this. I walk on water. I'm the greatest human being ever. This, that, whatever. All right, cool. He's promoting the fight. But now when John McCarthy or Herb Dean, someone starts that fight, homeboy throws down. Yeah. I mean, he comes in and he's talking shit. He's throwing his hands up, so he's entertaining, but he's also performing. He's got a stiff left. Some great kicks. And that I'll give him. So that I would separate him from Brock, but I hear what you're saying about the way he, comes in and comes out. To be fair, he was an MMA fighter up until jumping out of boxing. I think Brock was a little bit... I'll give it to you. Yeah, that's good. But back to what I was saying. If he does fight Pacquiao, again, I'm not standing in the way. I mean, I have nothing to do with it. Go ahead. We're probably going to cover it. Both guys are going to make a ton of money. But I'll tell you right now, I think we all learned a lesson. Even the ones that had a 1%, he ain't winning that boxing match.
Oh, not only is he not winning it, the way Floyd kind of carried him, Manny's not going to do that. Manny's going to make a statement.
Right.
Yeah. So that's not going to be a fun fight.
It's not going to be ugly. It's going to be ugly. So get paid, and then I will obviously still welcome him back to mixed martial arts. And believe it or not, when he comes back, if he's not fighting Diaz, he may have a right to just go, I'd like to fight the champion, whoever that might be. And honestly, what's the champion going to say? No? Champion's getting paid if he takes McGregor, you know what I mean? So he'll probably go, yeah, I believe McGregor has put in his time. Bring him in, whoever it may be at the time. They'll want that fight. The promoter will want that fight. So guess what? Us as fans, we'll have to pretty much stomach it if you're against it. If you're for it, then you'll love it. But yes, that's what I'd like to see, is something definitive. All right, if you're going to go dabble in boxing again, vacate, no problem. It's been a great career. Come back when you'd like, and if not, then it was still a great career. You weren't the greatest. You're not in the Rushmore or GOAT status, because I like title defenses when we start talking about that different level of icon in the sport.
Do you guys ever wish you were casual fans? Last night I was in bed, and I was thinking how easy their life must be, because for hardcore it's very complex, right? What's going on with Conor McGregor and even GSP, when you think about it, like, what? I just watched GSP win the belt. What do you mean he's not the champ? But if you're a casual fan, you just go, well, he thought the guys were a little bit too strong at that weight class, so he just vacated his title, and now he's going to have that match. And then you just go, oh, cool, can't wait to see him again. And that's their life.
Yeah.
That's it. Do you ever wish you had that and you didn't have to break shit down and who's the next contender and what's going on next? You could just sit back and go, who's fighting this weekend? All right, cool.
From the ignorance is bliss angle, I absolutely agree with you, Goes. And then even a little bit deeper angle for me, because it's a little apropos. We just had Felder kind of on here yesterday talking about it, where when you go from, participating, whether you're participating as a fan or as a fighter, it all changes when you step onto the media side of things. And, we've had conversations, I'm definitely, seeing that, stepping into it, whereas you guys are obviously veterans of the game. But it is a different aspect, right? It's a complete different bubble we put ourselves in. And as somebody who breaks down the fights, believe me, man, it's so much easier to just be like, I used to train with this guy, I'm going to homer for this guy, than just crack my beer and not have to worry about it. You know, but having to make a pick and then having to, you know, deal with the repercussions of those pick and then you know, see these people, go talk to them again on the show afterwards. It does put a kind of a different twist, but yeah, back to the more simpler version. So, you know, ignorance is bliss. It's kind of hard to argue that point, right? I mean, I agree.
Did you complicatedly it is what it is me?
No, whoa, jeez, you have. I think Max Holloway is giving you some trauma, sir.
Max Holloway was a gentleman.
He spread a lot of fire though, because it feels like since he said it, I'm hearing like all these other fighters say it, and I look at your face every time I hear it.
A gentleman on this show.
He was good. He was good. Yeah.
Well, rephrase the question again. I forgot it.
Do you ever feel like
maybe as a hardcore fan, right?
That we overthink things? Because I was thinking about GSP, right?
I have to be a hardcore though, because I cover it, so I get a paycheck.
I know. Do you ever wish, like, in other words,
that I had another job?
Hypothetical.
Like, do we overanalyze things? Because when I was thinking about how I would explain it to, let's say, Rodney, my friend Rodney, right? I would say, well, GSP tasted a little bit more power at middleweight than he liked, and he realized this just isn't for me. I'm going to get clowned if I stay in this division.
Stop right there. I want to ask you a quick question. Do you think GSP vacated his title or vacated the division?
The division.
Danton?
Division.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
So it's just something I'm talking to someone else about, and I just wanted to have some clarity. And that was no setup. That was just you guys. Right.
So when I'm explaining this to him, and I'm saying, listen, he just felt like guys were a little bit too big, a little too strong. He wasn't expecting that. He didn't feel right at that weight, so now he's going to go back to his regular weight, or he may just disappear. We don't know. I would imagine Rodney would say something like, right, CT and all that, guys are taking a lot of head trauma, you got to protect the fighters. All right, cool, let me know when he fights again. He'd probably say something like that. Are we, like, bashing this guy for no reason? A lot of people are kind of hard on him, and really, aren't we on the side of, hey, we got to protect fighters, this and that? And then the greatest fighter of all time is basically saying, I gave something to try, it didn't work out. Now, part of us kind of say, well, we kind of saw that coming. It's not breaking news that guys that are bigger hit harder, right? But then couldn't he just turn around and go, wow, I was trying to do something that nobody else has ever done. Give me a break. For years, I fought the #1 contender over and over and over and over and over. What do you want from me? Are we coming too hard on this guy?
No.
Coming down too hard on him?
No. He did what I think a lot of people do, and that's, for one, look out for yourself. You're your own CEO of your own brand or your own fighting career. I think some chase legacy and greatness, others chase money, but I think all of them chase both. It's just which one, the teeter-totter, you know, which one means more to one than the other. In GSP's case, I'm just going to believe what they say. He's got a lot of money. He's set for life. I think he wanted to chase greatness, and that was to win a second title. But if he were to, and plus he wanted to compete, but I think that only opened up when he saw Bisping holding the belt at middleweight. If that had been like,
I agree.
I mean, it's tough to say, because I was about to say, had it been Whitaker, would he do it? Well, Whitaker came from welterweight. He may have. It could have just been that the time that Bisping cracked him, that just represented all of 185. This is what all of 185 can do to you.
I think if it's a guy like Yoel, maybe he could.
Yeah.
I don't know about
that one from the beginning, or maybe even Luke. He may have went, ooh, I don't know if I want to go there. But I think GSP just wanted to come back, and his greatness would have been, hey, look, I came back after 4 years and fought Tyron. Had it been that who he elected to come back to, you know.
Yeah, the options going down
the money
at 170
less, but the money was nice. No, they're not. They're not. He could, you know, I don't know what he's going to do, honestly. He's got this little, this colitis thing going on. I don't know much about it. Shouldn't just dismiss it like that. But he's got that going on. I think we'll see him at some point in 2018, and I just don't know if we'll see him in time for Woodley or, you know, the next guy. So I got to pretend like it's RDA and Lawler this weekend at UFC on Fox 26 in Winnipeg.
There we go.
Winner gets Woodley, because I think if Colby Covington had amassed enough of a case, maybe they would have already made that matchup.
Yeah,
you know, it's so complicated with Woodley, because Woodley's got the shoulder injury that he's willing to come back from for a couple athletes, but not some. He was willing to come back for Diaz. I'm sure he would do it for GSP. If GSP said, show up to Boston, that's the last time I'm fighting, Woodley would do it, because the payday, and well, that's it.
Right.
I was trying to be the outline, like Dan, Tom, A, B, C, 1, 2, 3. But that's all I had. But yeah, the payday. So I think he would do it for some athletes for the longevity of his career. I think it's best to get the shoulder either repaired surgically, which he hasn't done, or to continue with his therapy and just hope it gets better.
And to Willie's credit, he's a little more open and honest about it, whereas I think GSP, kind of back to what you guys were saying and people having an issue, I think he was a little more obvious about it, which kind of rounds back to what George was saying about Connor. At this point, GSP could come back and state his claim, and I don't think too many of us are going to be like, hey, why does GSP get a title shot? I think we all kind of get it at that point if he comes back in 2018 or something like that. So yeah, it's real interesting. But I'm with you. I got to imagine it's Lawler and Dos Anjos. Dan Tom. Dan Tom loves voting for the guys who are out there fighting and putting it on the line. So I hope these guys get recognized for their efforts this weekend.
Everyone on this planet would take the fight or the job that pays more and is probably easier for. Not so much the preparation, but easier on your health, I guess. In this case, the brain or the weight cut or however you want to look at it, or even if you choose a division, your possible longevity in the division. So I don't blame any of these athletes when they do it. And, when we say, boy, he's getting a lot of hate, there's always going to be hate no matter what. I could say something right now, and there would be hate. You could say something right now. Any of these athletes, anybody that comes on this show, there will always be someone that's a contrarian, whether it's on purpose or they just see it another way. So I don't think people should really worry too much about haters, unless you open up your Twitter or your friends are constantly telling you, dude, you're an asshole, you need to change. Then it's on you. But for the most part, I mean, everyone's just always going to hate it. Sometimes people just do it. Hell, our parents do it just for fun. They're just so used to it. You know what I mean?
Hating?
No, the contrarian to each other.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, but you kind of, I even tell them from time to time, but you kind of agree with that stance, and they're like, and then they kind of dismiss it. I think they realize, I was a buffoon for the last 10 seconds. But, yeah, I mean, so I really wouldn't worry about it. It's just good to have those haters because they keep the retweet going or the dialogue going, and so that just maybe gets you more fans. I don't know.
If EA Sports made a Devil's Advocate 2007, they just kept doing that every year, it would be our family repeatedly on the cover.
On the cover.
Is how it would work. But the one intangible that we forget about is I think all this would be a lot easier to think out and plan out if we knew what GSP's shelf life was. Only he knows that. In his head, he knows, I got 3 left in me. Or I got 1 left in me. If we knew that equation, then a lot more things that would happen would make more sense. And we don't know.
And that's the issue. It's honesty, and it's not just honesty, but it's that we're not, getting it from the most honest guy. And yeah, Dan, you're a martial artist, and you're going to side with honor over money and this and that. You know what? Forget me. What about the real martial artist, GSP, the martial artist, GSP, the honest guy, and I think that is the backlash. Like, George is right. There's always going to be hate no matter what. Hence the Connor equation. But I think GSP is different. Is because he's that role model. He is that guy. And now we're kind of seeing, the more common equivalent, you see a teacher you look up to at the grocery store, he gets out to his car, realizes there's something underneath his card he didn't pay for, grabs it, you see him do the body language, look back at the store, think about it for a second, and goes, I'm going to get in my car. And even if it's something you would have done, part of you is a little disappointed because that was a role model of yours. That was the guy that was supposed to be for good. And you just saw him kind of just shoplift and not kind of think twice about it and act like he didn't do it when he was being asked about it. And I think if George was just honest and say, hey, man, I just wanted to test myself with this. I like the matchup. I think everybody would respect that. How could you not? It's George St. Pierre. And I think that's the upsetting part with that whole situation where it's so obvious. Like, come on, man, just say it. We're going to support you. You deserve it. No one's saying you don't. Let's be honest with this here.
Do you remember 6 years ago when we would all sit down as fans and go, man, these fighters should be getting paid more. The UFC's making a lot of money now, blah, blah, blah. Unfortunately, one of the things that comes along with fighters getting paid more are situations like this. Now they don't have to fight 5 times a year or even 3 times a year because they make such a big paycheck, some of them, not all of them, that they can afford to sit out fights. They can sit around and do things. Before, they had to fight. Chuck Liddell had to fight, right? Randy Couture. Those were the guys that were starting to make the big checks. But in that early cycle of Tito, Randy, Tito, Chuck, those guys had to fight frequently. That's why it was over and over and over. They were trying to stack paychecks. Now it's not like that. So it's always be careful what you wish for as a fan. I know you want the fighters to get paid, but if they get paid too much, then you're going to have these type of scenarios. Hopefully it doesn't turn into box.
Something quick on that. A lot of people used to see it when they'd see 25 to show, 25 to win, 5 to show. So a lot of them were almost campaigning for the lesser paid fighters versus the guys that are already at the top were getting paid pretty good. But I know that a lot of people just said, hey, overall, that's what it was. But a lot of arguments started with that when salaries were published. All right, we're going to change things up a little bit. We got to take an earlier break here than usual. You're listening to MMA Junkie Radio on Sirius XM Rush 93. Stay close. We'll be right back. We have some guests coming your way. The first one's going to be Alex Perez. He'll be followed by Andre Soukhamthath. And Danny Castillo will join us as well. Eryk Anders in the second hour. We'll be right back after this break.
Do what they say. Your life will be a lot better. Here are Gorgeous and Goes.
Help Sirius XM in the fight to end hunger. Support Why Hunger's annual Hungerthon donation drive. You can go to SiriusXM.com/Hungerthon and see the items that you can bid on now through December 13th. So that's tomorrow. What you can bid on, for example, is guest DJing on SiriusXM's Elvis Radio at Graceland, plus a 2-night stay at the Graceland Guest House. Or you can make a donation and receive a gift like a John Lennon Imagine scarf and more. Go to SiriusXM.com/Hungerthon for more details today. All right, so like I mentioned, we have a few guests headed your way. And the first one is Alex Perez. He defeated Carl's John de Tomas. That guy's got 3 first names. And he defeated him this past Saturday at UFC Fight Night Fresno, a.k.a. UFC Fight Night 123, which was headlined by Cub Swanson versus Brian Ortega. This fight ended in the second round. It was a submission. Alex Perez had his hand raised. He joins us now on MMA Junkie Radio. Please punch him in, Danny. What's up, Alex? How you doing?
That's how you guys doing?
Good, man. Congratulations on your win. We saw you at Dana White Contender Series, and we were always curious how those alumni from that show were going to do. You know, was it the real thing, or were they just trying to hype up a Tuesday night show, getting some bodies in there, and maybe they'll fizzle out? But hell no, that was a great performance. Great official debut on an official card.
Oh, thank you.
All right, so let me ask you about Carl's Johns de Thomas. When you initially took the fight, what did you think of what he was going to bring to the table compared to what actually happened in the fight?
When I first took the fight, I thought it was a good matchup for me. I thought I was a better grappler, and my stand-up's always evolving here at Team Oyama, so I thought it was going to be a good fight. I thought I would have the edge everywhere, so I just that was a good matchup for me.
Have your game plans, when you create them, have they, for the most part, because obviously you have an 8-1, or excuse me, you have a winning record by far, but have your game plans been able to match up and do you have more faith in them as you continue, as your career continues?
Yeah, I mean they match up pretty good. I have a good team behind me, so the game plan is usually pretty right. Sometimes we do have to switch things up, just depending on the fight. If something gets hurt in a fight, or it's not working, we always have a plan B, C, so on and so forth. But usually my game plan is usually pretty to the point.
What have you always stressed, I guess, when a game plan does come up? Do you consider yourself like an aggressive fighter, a cerebral fighter? Is cardio a concern? Do you attack his weaknesses? Like, what kind of a fighter would you say that you are overall when it comes to strategy?
For me, I'm an aggressive fighter, and my cardio really never bugs me, just because I'm always in good shape. I train pretty hard, and I always try to push the pace to my level where I'm used to going. And like I said, I'm just not worried about getting out of shape, being tired in the fight, and I'm usually able to dictate where it goes.
So you had 5 fights offered to you in 2017. One fell through, was canceled, but you went 4-0. When you, around this time last year, December 2016, did you even imagine you could be sitting here with a 4-0 2017, a 2-0 UFC record?
No, I had came off a couple losses, so eventually I knew I was going to be able to make it to the UFC. It's just going to be a little bit harder, but I always felt that I was going to be here. It is kind of surprising how fast it came up, just because I came off of 2 losses.
Mm-hmm. As far as those 2 losses, I mean, I'm familiar with both names, Adam Antolin, Jared Papazian. I've seen Papazian fight a lot in the SoCal circuit, and Antolin, I believe I saw through the reality show. So they're, solid losses. How much did it take to get over them? Only because they were back-to-back. Like, were any career doubts creep in or anything like that, like a shaken confidence?
Yeah, a little bit. No one likes to lose, and to lose 2 in a row is kind of like, man, am I doing the right thing,
Right.
Career-wise, but, I've always had, a short memory when it comes to things like that. I mean, I didn't forget that I lost, but I do move on pretty fast, because there's nothing I can do about the past. I can obviously get better in those areas I lost, but I usually try to forget. I'll give myself a day to be a little girl about it, complain about it, and then after that, just move on.
Do you think that's one advantage a lot of wrestlers have, just because, I mean, aside from Cael Sanderson and maybe one other, you're eventually going to lose. And hell, you may just lose to a teammate. You may lose in the practice room or at tournaments. Do you feel like wrestlers cope with losses a little bit better?
Because we wrestle so many times, and if you have a dual meet, it's only one time. But if you have a tournament, you're wrestling 9 times, and if you lose, early in the tournament, you have to get over it quick, because you got a lot of matches to make up, come back for third. A lot of people, the way I see it, it's hard getting first, but it's even harder coming back and getting third, because you have to deal with, okay, I just lost a match, I'm going to be up in 30 minutes. I got to get over this quick. I got to come back. So I always believe that. It's hard. Don't get me wrong. It's hard getting first, but it's a little bit harder to get third, just because I feel like you have to deal with a lot of emotion.
That's an interesting take. I don't know if we've ever heard that in 10 years and 2,500 shows, but it really is an interesting take. And Alex Perez is our guest here on MMA Junkie Radio. He's coming off a win this past Saturday at UFC Fight Night 123, headlined by Cub Swanson and Brian Ortega. All right, Goes, what do you have for Alex Perez?
Alex, I was wondering if you could share your emotions. I know they were a little bit different, but can you compare them as we're walking through the door for Dana White's Contender Series? Not only do you need to get the victory, but you also have to kind of make a statement because other guys are going to get victories that night, and you have to stand out. Can you give us your emotions versus your first fight in the UFC going through that curtain? How different was it a feeling?
You know, it's a lot different. For the Dana White Contender show, I was kind of like, all right, I'm going to go in there, get knocked out, get knocked out or knock the guy out. I'm not going to go in there and hold anything back kind of feeling. So I wasn't, to be honest, I wasn't as nervous because I was like, hey, I'm going to let everything go. Whatever happens, happens. I know I'll put everything I had into it. Now, when I got to UFC, like when my last fight, I was kind of nervous because, you know, it's a bigger stage. Camera's right in front of you the whole time. You know, I want to win. I need to win just because it's in my backyard. So I was a little bit nervous, but I feel there was a lot more pressure in the Fresno than there was in the Dana White.
Who gave you the best piece of advice going into the UFC? And what was that piece of advice?
Actually, it was Brian Ortega. They had sent me to go do the UFC media stuff, you know, because I was a local guy on the card. And he kind of just told me, like, hey, man, like, you're fighting close to home. Like, when I fought close to home, you know, this is what you're going to get. Basically, he told me everything I was going to get. People asking for tickets, people bugging you, people, you know, and he just gave me the best piece of advice. Like, hey, man, if your friends really want to, if they're really your friends, they're not going to bug you for tickets. They're not going to bug you, hassle you for anything. He's like, you know, I fought down the street from my hometown, you know, just like you know, just take it in, take everything in, you know. So I think Brian Ortega gave him the best advice.
Hey, Alex, I got two questions for you. The first one is about your camp there, Team Oyama. It seems like they're building like an army of super fighters down there recently. I mean, Colin obviously has been in the game for a while, but with recent success, guys like Chito Vera around your weight class there, Humberto Bendene, guys coming up from South America. Can you talk about the training partners and the different skill sets and how that's helping you kind of grow?
Yeah, man, we have a lot of guys coming out. You know, you got Chito Vera, like you said, Humberto Bendene, Diego Rivas. Then there's other guys you guys don't even know about, like Fernando Padilla, Desmond Torres. Those guys put it on us, you know. Like, I fought a lefty this fight, and I was kind of comfortable with it because Chito's a lefty. He'll switch his stance from back and forth. Humberto, same thing. So it wasn't like a new feeling to me. A lot of people like kind of panic when they're, oh, it's a lefty. Just the training's hard, you know. We got other guys, you know, Joe Soto, Brent Primus, Alex Reyes. Like, you know, we have all those guys in the gym at the same time. So our practice room is stacked from top to bottom. There's no way you can go somewhere and try to hide from anybody because you do get called out over here if you're being a girl.
And yeah, man, speaking of experience and having that experience, like George was saying, your record is deceptively impressive. I like seeing young guys like yourself who actually, you know, take the time. You fought RFA, Tachi Palace, King of the Cage, experienced guys with winning records, all the above. But tell me, does that experience, does that help, you know, does that place your confidence at an even more high coming into the UFC? And does that mean you want to jump into your next matchups, maybe going for more name guys for your next matchup, or you know, how do you see, how do you want to be matched up essentially going in, because you have a lot of experience?
But like the experience-wise, you know, it helps a lot knowing that I've been battle-tested. You know, some guys get in the UFC with a good record of 7-0, you know, and for me, I'd rather fight those guys that are 7-0 and then fight a guy that's, you know, had a couple losses on his record. Most of the guys that are 7-0, you know, get knockouts quick or something and haven't been the distance. So I like to test those guys in deep waters. And then for me, you know, the two names that I really want to fight next is Eryk Sheldon. I believe he just came off a huge win. And then Matt Chanel, those two guys would be the guys I would want to come after if I had a choice to pick one of those two.
There you go. That's exactly what we wanted to know. And the last thing, Alex, is Well, where would you like to fight them, by the way? If they go, hey, we like that. Now, choose a location. What do you want to do? You want to travel a little bit? You want to go to the fight capital, Vegas again? Is there something that stands out to you as far as like where you're comfortable when you fight?
To me, it don't matter. It's a fight. Honestly, Vegas would be ideal. March 3rd, or even February in Texas. I don't mind fighting local boys. You know.
There you go.
I've been in people's backyards before. It don't matter to me. February or March. I like to stay active. You know, I like fighting a lot. Keeps me sharp. It keeps me sane. You know, I don't like to sit and wait for too long.
Did you mean you fought in people's backyards before in your MMA career, or were you one of the high school dudes that was putting up a ring in the backyard with your homies? Oh yeah.
A little bit of both. A little bit of both. I can't say that I haven't done that before.
How'd you do in those?
Not too bad.
Yeah, you got the neighborhood belt and all that, and like in your somewhere in the family room.
I wouldn't say the neighborhood belt, but you know, I wouldn't say the neighborhood belt, but you know, I have my fair share of.
Fair share of scraps. Hello.
Hello.
Yeah, no, you said I've had my fair share, and then it kind of wiped out. So I imagine you meant to say your fair share of scraps. Alex, one last thing. In your division, Alex, Marlon Moraes defeated Aljamain Sterling. And I wanted to get your thoughts. When you watched both guys compete, and especially the winner, Moraes, in this case, and you said, can you honestly say, hey, I got something for those guys? Or do you feel like there's still some improvement to be done before you can get into a fight with either Marlon or Sterling or any of those other guys that are at the top?
Well, technically I'm supposed to be a 125-pounder. CSAC said that my opponent couldn't make weight, so they changed the weight on me on the last day and a half.
You're right.
So technically I'm a 25-pounder.
So let's apply that to last week's Cejudo and Pettis fight.
I think I can, you know, like I have a lot of fights. I've trained with the best in the world for a long time, and I feel I can match up with anybody. And to me, it doesn't matter. My skills are always improving here, you know, with Team Oyama and with the 10 Planet guys. So I feel like I can match up with anybody. I feel like I can take on anybody they ask me to take on, and I feel like I have a good chance of winning.
Man, it's great catching up with you and seeing you fight in Dana White Contender Series and then seeing you follow up with that. That's been really cool to track your record like that. I was actually sitting close to your family when you won at Dana White Contender Series, and I can tell just how much they enjoy supporting you and how much this is probably a family affair, you know, when you do have your fight. So hopefully your next fight is in Vegas because you got a vocal bunch that follows you.
Yeah, no, that'd be amazing if it were.
All right, brother. Thank you very much for the interview. We appreciate it. Congrats on the win. Enjoy the holidays.
Sounds good. Thank you, guys. Thank you guys for having me, and you guys too. Enjoy your holidays.
Thank you, Alex. Take care. Yeah. All right, folks. That's Alex Perez. He's right. He's a flyweight, and he got a nice win this past Saturday. Submission win. Big year for him in 2017. Shout out to Ed Cap for lining that up. All right, we got to take our next break. You're listening to MMA Junkie Radio on SiriusXM Rush 93. When we come back, we'll have our next guest ready to go, Andre Soukhamthath, and we'll also take some calls, hopefully before the end of the hour. We'll try and sneak some in there at 866-522-2846.
They taught Andy Griffith how to whistle. Here are Gorgeous George and Goes.
SiriusXM wants you to turn on the joy this holiday season with your chance to win a trip to one of 4 All-Star sporting experiences. The 2018 Pro Bowl in Orlando, the Honda NHL All-Star Game in Tampa, the NBA All-Star Game in Los Angeles, or the MLB All-Star Game in our nation's capital. For official rules and to enter, go to SiriusXM.com/All-Star Trip before January 2nd, 2018. No additional purchase is necessary to enter or win. This sweepstakes is not sponsored, administered, produced, or executed by either the NHL, NBA, MLB, or NFL entities. There you go. I don't have to say that 4 times. Is that okay, Danny?
Oh, no. Do it over again.
Do it again.
Just kidding.
All right.
Kidding.
He sounded like Mr. Ed there for a second.
Yeah, he did, huh?
Yeah.
Oh, Wilbur.
All right, let's continue on with our next guest. Andre Soukhamthath defeated Luke Sanders this past weekend. And a lot of people were cheering in Vegas because this is a gambling town, and Andre was almost a 3-1 underdog. So anybody that had Andre Soukhamthath on their parlay or just had him straight up made some bank. He joins us now on MMA Junkie Radio. What's up, Andre? How you doing?
Hey, what's up, guys? I'm good.
We're actually gonna have a good lunch later on, thanks to you, man. You were our underdog play of the week.
A lot of people came up, including some of my friends. They made the ride to Fresno. They actually got a free vacay off of that. So
there you go.
That's pretty cool.
How about you? Did you make some dough?
No, I made my second check. That's about it.
That's it. All right. Did you know you were an underdog like that? Did it matter to you? Did it bother you?
No, it didn't bother me. And yeah, I knew that I was a huge underdog. I mean, you look at on paper, I'm 0-2. You know what I'm saying? But everybody knows I can fight. You know what I'm saying? So the people that did bet on me, they knew that I could fight, and they had faith in me.
You probably had a chance to obviously see the result, and taking a step, out of the fact that you were involved in it. What'd you think of the stoppage? Luke kind of popped up. We're not saying he wasn't hurt and that you may not have actually brought him back to consciousness, but the actual reaction, if a casual observer is watching, he may have thought it was premature. Would you agree with that or disagree?
I would disagree because I say he went out about 2 times. I mean, I dropped him, and then I wouldn't say he was knocked out, but maybe flash knocked out.
Right.
Then when I went in for the kill, he flattened out again, and then I woke him up, and then he flattened out again, and then I woke him up again. So I think I put him out like twice. Like, no lie. I put him out twice. That's just what I think. If you watch the video, you see him go flat, and that's why Josh Rosenthal stepped in the middle. If he didn't, I would have kept punching, and he would have kept waking up and going back to sleep.
I ain't calling you crazy, that's for sure. My initial reaction was like, whoa, should they have done it? And then we saw the replays, and Josh had actually a great view of his eyes, and then we also saw what you just described. And so I think for the most part, most people have been able to stomach the stoppage, and we just move on. We move on, and you are now working off a win. What do you want next? After some time off, some good food, some holiday time with the family and friends. In 2018, how do you want to map out your year?
I'm just happy that I got to keep my job, and I finally got my UFC win. All my fights that I lost, I came this close to winning. Just this close to winning. Really, me just beating myself, and I didn't want to go out like that. So I'm just glad that, I have another opportunity. The UFC sees what I can do. They see that I can finish. They see that, I'm for real. And whatever they have planned for me, I'm willing to do. I'm not afraid of anybody. I say it and I live by it. Anywhere, anytime, any place, anyone.
Even in Ngannou in an alley? And he's holding a knife?
if I'm getting paid, okay, yeah, of course.
Wow, even with Ngannou holding the knife, you heard me throw that in, right?
He wouldn't do that to me. I think he likes me. I think Francis likes me anyway, so
he probably does. You're a fun fighter to watch. All right, Andre Soukhamthath.
I'd rather him have a knife.
Our guest here on MMA Junkie Radio. And he's coming off a win over Luke Sanders at UFC Fight Night 123. Goes, what do you have for Andre?
Andre, so the 2-fight losing streak going in, you talked a little bit about that. Having that feeling of kind of a do or die, did you have that? Because really, the 2 losses were split decisions, so it's not like you could really say this guy is underperforming or anything like that. Did it force you to fight differently?
Yes, it did. It made me go back to my roots and have that old mindset, like, you know, I'm fighting for my family. I take so much time away from them, and then I really need that second check. Like, I need it. You know, when I got signed to the UFC, I wouldn't say that, you know, I kind of thought that, like, I was at the higher level and I was a superstar, but, you know, those little feeling like that, I'll be the first to admit, like, yeah, you know, I made it, you know, and I was thinking about the unimportant things. I was thinking too much of the future, what I wanted to do in the UFC, rather than just focusing on the present, you know, and I was focusing on trying to make the UFC like me, trying to focus on impressing all the fans and making them like my fight style and trying to entertain, rather than, you know, what brought me here, what got me into UFC, and that's the mindset of you know, a guy just trying to feed his family. And I definitely felt like that. You know, I didn't want to go back to making you know, the money I used to make locally compared to fighting in the UFC. So I was definitely put in that position, and it humbled me out after that fight in Mexico. And, you know, when I have my mindset like that, you see what I can do when I'm fighting for my family.
You know, going forward now, you've had quite a bit of fights, but you haven't really fought in different states. I mean, you fought in another country, but is there, like, any particular region or a different state or somewhere that you always wanted to fight that you would like to fight in next?
No, man. I like to fight in the United States, you know. I'm not gonna lie. Anywhere in the United States, it's cool. California was fun. Boston's coming up. That'd be fun one day, you know.
Yeah.
I get my name out there. I make my way up the ranks. Providence, Rhode Island. I'd love to headline that one day.
Awesome. Hey, Andre, first of all, I just want to say, again, congratulations on the win. Was really happy to see you get the win, especially after, again, 2 very close losses for people who didn't see those fights. Very, very close fights. You could see your emotion kind of coming through there, so congratulations, man.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that.
You know, and secondly, it's also good to hear you talking about, adjusting your style and moving forward. And when I watch you fight, I'm really impressed with what you're doing. But sometimes I worry that the judges don't understand what they're watching with certain striking styles to realize that someone's getting the better. And was really nice to see you kind of come through. But about your training and prep, are you still training down in South Florida, or are you staying still up in the Rhode Island area?
No, I actually, you know, when I got the call for this last fight, because I asked for it, and once it was confirmed, I actually went up north for the holidays, and I was with my son, and then my wife called me, and she was like, "You got the fight." I was just like, "Damn, I wouldn't even, you know, left Florida if I knew that, you know, before getting on the plane." So right away, I started training a little bit, a couple days up there with my old team and my old coaches. And then, like, the day after Thanksgiving, you know, we booked a flight to come right back home so that I can do a little 1-week training camp here with my team, you know, Henry Hoof and the crew at Hard Knocks and Combat Club. So I'm still training down here in South Florida.
Awesome. And last question here, you know, speaking of next fight and possibly fighting in Boston, you know, Boston's not that far away. You took this fight on short notice. This is a theme. We're seeing more fighters take fights on short notice. The UFC has a lot of fights to fill, and they certainly don't seem to mind it. Is this something that you could maybe do in the future, maybe even for that Boston card? Maybe you're going to bother Sean Shelby to see if you can, you know, stay ready and fill in.
I probably wouldn't bother him to get on the card because, you know, I'm just happy I saved my job, and I think you know, I make smart decisions from here on out. But if they were like, Andre, you want to get on the card, and they asked me, and I'm feeling good, of course, but I'd like, if that was the case, I'd like to know right now, before I start eating, before I start planning for the holidays and stuff like that. I'd like to know, like, this week if they're going to put me on that card. If it's going to be like 1 week or 2 weeks, then there's no point in me doing that. I already handled that situation. I was already put in that situation, and I overcame it. So I think that I'm in no position to do stupid things right now. You know what I mean?
Yep. And after this fight, who's more popular in Rhode Island, you or Paulie D?
Maybe one more win, I'll be more popular than him.
There you go. All right. Thanks for the time, Andre. Congrats on the win. That was a beautiful finish, a great fight, and I cannot wait to see what 18 lines up for you. Also, happy holidays, man. You deserve it.
Thank you, guys. Happy holidays.
All right, thank you.
I appreciate you guys having me on it.
All right, thank you for the time.
All right.
All right,
Easy.
see you.
Thank you.
Big shout out to Ed Cap for lining that one up. Follow Andre on Twitter, Andre Souk MMA. So it's AndreSouk MMA. Alex Perez, our first guest, he can be followed on Twitter at Alex Perez MMA. When we come back, we'll be talking to Danny Castillo. I don't believe he's retired, so I'm still going to call him fighter coach. He's been coaching a lot, though. He's actually in Winnipeg, getting ready to coach again this weekend. We'll also talk to Eryk Anders. All that coming up in the second hour. It's MMA Junkie Radio on Sirius XM, Rush 93. Stay close.
Luckily, it's a long song.
Drake's still in the bathroom?
first one was horrible. This one was Guns N' Roses and Metallica, but the first one was
Undertaker?
worse than that.
All right, here we go. It's the second hour of the MMA Junkie Radio Show. Let's take this quick call from Dan in Oregon. What's up, Dan? How you doing?
What up, George? Yo, that last interview with Andre, that just goes to show you, man, you must have the MMA Junkie app. He read that Brian Caraway was injured out of that, wrote Sean Shelby on Twitter. That's how we make fights these days. You jump on Twitter, so boom, gets it done. So that's awesome to see right there. Man, I can't let this whole St. Louis thing go. I don't know if I'm driving people crazy on this or not, but I go to UFC.com. I click on UFC 219. Right after that, we're going to have the national championship games in college football. And then the week after, we got this free fight on Fox Sports 1. And we got TB announced versus TB determined. What the heck's going on? This thing's like a month away at this point in time. Are they going to pull some pro wrestling stuff and throw like some secret match at us, and we find out a week of that they're going to fight, and like that's how they're going to generate marketing in this fight? Like, what the heck's going on?
I would say look for something of an announcement on Wednesday for UFC Tonight, if they have a UFC Tonight, which I think they will. Look for an announcement there. Usually they talk about fights on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. It's a West Coast company when I'm talking about the UFC, so a lot of announcements come in the afternoon. And if you haven't heard one now, then maybe Wednesday might be a good time. Or Saturday if they want to wait for that audience too. But I think you'll hear a few of them. I think 219 is obviously said and done. And then 2018 is starting to get some fill-ins. And yeah, you're right. How can you go out and buy a ticket if you don't know who's fighting or what's happening? I know it won't be Woodley, and that's unfortunate. But I would also want to see Woodley on either a big Fox card in St. Louis or a pay-per-view. And if you know Woodley, he's probably just going to do a pay-per-view. Unless you're writing him some sort of another check, he wants to be a pay-per-view guy. I really don't blame him, honestly.
I mean, he's this late. If they cut him a good check to get on Big Fox, man, like, how could you not want to grow your brand?
Well, that's not a Big Fox show, though,
favor.
right? St. Louis isn't a Big Fox show. I think it's just a fight night. So,
well, let's go back. So many Januaries ago, we had Dominic Cruz versus T.J. Dillashaw. That was a title fight. That was on FS1. This has happened before. We've had title
yeah,
fights
no, it has. I think even Connor fought on a fight night, if I'm not mistaken. It has happened in the past, but that lumped together with what Woodley's, we had about a good 25 minutes with Woodley the other day. We covered a lot. He would come back for Nate Diaz. He wouldn't come back for Usman, for example. There's certain fighters, depending on what they were going to do, especially the ones that are willing to stand with him, that he was probably going to do. But again, it had to do with a big payday, and it had to do with their skill set. And St. Louis I don't see it being a big payday, And sometimes you just don't get to fight in your hometown, unfortunately. Sometimes it lines up perfectly, and then there's other times it doesn't. Case in point, look at Kevin Lee. He really wanted to be on Detroit's UFC 218 card, but then they offered him something so lucrative that he fought Vegas. Didn't go his way, but he showed up as a featured fighter, in Detroit. So sometimes, like I say, it does work out, and sometimes it doesn't. Listen, my man, we got to get on. Thanks for the call, but we have to get to our next guest because he's ready to go. Right, Danny? We're good to go?
Yeah, Danny is ready to go.
Cool. All right. So our next guest is Danny Castillo, one of the head coaches out at Team Alpha Male. Also a fighter who I don't believe has officially retired. So we'll ask him about that. And a fellow 49ers fan. What's up, Danny Castillo? How you doing?
How's it going?
Good. How about you? 13 hours sleep last night. You must be feeling good.
But I'm still tired, man. It feels like the more sleep you get, the more groggy you wake up.
Ain't that the truth?
But I'm in Winnipeg, and it's the beginning of another fight week, so I'm excited.
Hey, let's piss some people off, though, first. Niners Nation hasn't had much to say this year, but we got 2 wins these past 2 weeks. A quarterback that seems to be, possibly the future. A defense that's starting the ball, probably get some good draft picks. How would you assess this year and the rebuild overall?
Man, I think it's a great year for us. I mean, considering that we didn't have too much to be excited about in the beginning of the year, but we always seem to do good when we start with a great defense, and there's signs that the defense is going to be really strong. So, before Harbaugh came, Singletary put that defense together, and then we started to win some games, and like they say, defense wins championships. So, hopefully, with this defense and a few lucrative draft picks, we can definitely make some noise next year.
And with the holidays coming up, you guys got a lot of buy one, get one free, a lot of discounts on Niner gear. You guys must be stoked.
And we got cap space. So I think we may be able to get a key free agent or two. But, the first 5 games, out of the first 5 weeks, 4 of our losses combined were all by 13 points. So we were actually competing. So we're this close. Right now we've won 3 games. We are this close to being like a team that maybe had 6 wins. We could still finish with 8, but that's not the way it panned out. But I really believe that a good draft, some keep signings, and we're going to get an easier schedule next season. I think it could be maybe a 9 or 10 win season. We'll see what happens. All right, Mr. Castillo, are you a retired fighter, or are you still just letting coaching play out and figuring out what you want to do on that other front?
I haven't really came out and made a retirement statement or anything like that, but now, I've been enjoying what I'm doing, and anytime, so I don't see myself fighting within this year or the next year also. So, me getting over, just had a birthday, I'm 38 now, I'm okay with what I did in the sport. I did a lot. I didn't reach some of the goals that I set for myself before I started my career, but sometimes it's not in the books, and for certain athletes. And for me, I think it's some of the experiences that I did have that's helped me become a better coach. So I think all along that maybe it was just written in the books for me to be a great coach and not a world champ in the UFC.
So can we accept this as a retirement, or you're still not committing to that?
I'm not committing to anything. I have commitment issues. I'm 38 and no girlfriend, no wife.
All right. Can you tell? Well, I know that unofficially word leaks out when you and Justin and Chris kind of took the helm about a year and a half ago. I think there was something in the contract that said, hey, look, take 2016 off. But then when I didn't see you in 2017 either, I go, wow, he must have really fallen in love with coaching. But then I see Buckholz over the summer took a fight. So I thought, well, those competitive juices, they may still flow, and I figured it was just best to point blank ask you these questions.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's understandable. Actually, I never signed any contract just saying that I wouldn't compete or anything like that.
Oh, okay.
So I'm not sure where that's from.
Goes to show you who my sources aren't that good.
He did take a fight. And sometimes, some guys still have that competitiveness left in them, and I mean, I've definitely enjoyed competing. I just had a EBI match in on it a couple of weeks ago against Jamie Varner, and it felt good to step back on the mat. But it's more of a hobby these days, and instead of a lifestyle and something that's supporting me.
All right, so let's talk about coaching. It really is cool to see you kind of draped over these cages and seeing you shout out last minute instructions to these guys. And tell me what I guess it gets you the most fired up about being a coach. Is it the fight itself, or is it like the one-on-one throughout a camp that leads to the fight? Is it a little bit of everything? Is there something that really stands out for you? And here's why I'm asking you, because it probably could be an obvious answer, but I didn't know this until they asked him. There's a soccer coach named Jose Mourinho who's had a lot of successes, and they asked him a shitload of questions, and he basically loved everything. But the closing statement was, but there's nothing like those 90 minutes. I live for those 90 minutes. So obviously that stands out more than anything for him. How about for you?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit different for me because our team is so close. It's more of a family than anything, and seeing the kid perform to his capabilities and beyond is something that really gets me fired up. It's not so much the 15 or the 25 minutes. In fact, sometimes that's a little nerve-wracking for me. But the more I work with an athlete, the easier it is going into those sitting in the corner and watching cage side, is because I have more confidence and faith in them that we went over everything that we need to do. And I mean, you guys seen it; anything can happen in a fight. But if we really put in the effort into a fight camp, and the kid, and giving his all fight camp, and coaches know, you can't really fake that. And that's the beautiful thing about MMA. It's such a true sport that if you're lacking in something, it's going to come up in the fight. So the more I work with an athlete, the more comfortable I am in the coaching role. And one of the best things is hearing the fighters not necessarily saying it in front of the world or on TV or going on social media. Is when you have those recaps with the fighters and you talk to the fighters and they tell you, the things that worked and I should have done this and things that we went over. And fighters that thank you for your time. We just had an athlete, Benito Lopez, who had a wonderful fight. I mean, a phenomenal fight, an exciting fight. And, he pretty much showed the MMA world that he's one of the next exciting fighters to watch in the UFC. And he's been just talking to me all week about what he could have done better. And he can't wait to do a recap, because as soon as I come back from Josh's fight, we're going to do a recap, watch the fight, go over what we had success in, and some of the things that we need to change moving forward. And sometimes it could be a little as changing your diet. Sometimes it could be, as big as, getting in that weight room right now and putting on some muscle. Or, each athlete and each individual is different. So hearing him saying that he was so thankful, and he's, one of the things I hate to do is talk about money, and he's just like, well, I need to pay you, how much do you expect? What's the percentage? And I told him, the amount, and then I get a notification on my phone saying that he just Venmo'd me the money. And I told him, you don't really have to pay me right away. I know where you live, I know where you train. It's not that big of a deal. But he's like, no, I really appreciated everything, all the King of the Cage fights. You were in my corner this whole time, and now we're finally fighting on TV, and I just want to make sure that you're repaid. And that's what. He didn't make a lot of money, but the amount of money that he gave me was, a lot for a fighter, because I've been in the same shoes. And, that's the thing that I appreciate the most is, when they really are grateful for the time that you spent and instilled in an athlete.
I love that recap idea. When you get back from Winnipeg, and you sit down with Benito, how long does one of those recaps take, where you kind of assess the fight and have a conversation? And is it quick and informal, or is it kind of like official, kind of like what you see like the NFL coaches do with their players?
Well, I don't really know what NFL coaches do with their players, but we're going to go rewatch his fight, rewatch the fight before that, and maybe watch his last fight a couple of times going through it, stand-up wise and ground game wise, wrestling wise, and then just kind of, there's some things that we didn't really have a traditional fight week because we were in Fresno. So, he drove back to sleep in his own bed because he felt more comfortable sleeping in his bed at home, and it was only 2.5 hours. So that was one of the things that was kind of scattered. So I really want to go over fight week and how we'd like it to be ran coaches-wise, and, go over it that way.
You're in town you're in Winnipeg, I should say, for Josh Emmett. Are you kind of like the lead coach for Josh, and which fighters are you kind of like the lead coach? I know that there's not really an official head coach right now at Team Alpha Male. Each guy kind of has certain guys that they click with. Can you identify which are the ones that you're kind of like the lead guy?
Man, I feel like I feel like there's no, I'm not a lead guy for anyone. I don't really like to take that title. I think that Alpha Male's been really successful because we've all been, chipping in into our whole team. It hasn't necessarily been one coach or another. It's never been about that. Master Tong was our head coach, and it wasn't just about Master Tong. And Dwayne was our head coach, and it wasn't about Dwayne. It's about a bunch of dudes having fun, training, and enjoying the journey and the process of everything with it all. You know, I carry a lot of hats, and, you know, one might be head wrestling coach, one might be one of the MMA coaches, you know, but I'm also a big brother. I'm also the older homie. I'm also the vet that's been there. And, you know, sometimes they come to me about relationship problems. They come to me about financial problems and, you know, trying to start businesses and finding, you know, supplemental incomes and all that stuff. And so for me, I don't know what my title is. I kind of like the title as big brother, older homie, because, you know, I feel like that's what I am. I care about each one of these athletes like a brother, and I think that's why we have so much success, is because we click, and it's more than about the coach and the athlete. It's more about a family.
Josh Emmett's kind of in a position against Lamas like Ortega was this past week against Swanson. You know, going up against a top 5 vet. Talk about that matchup and the preparations for Josh Emmett.
Yeah, well, the preparations for Lamas was, we didn't really have too much time, but once we heard about the fight, I thought it was a perfect fight for Josh. Being that I fought Ricardo Lamas way back in the day in the WEC, and also Chad fought him as well in the UFC, so we have a little bit of history with Lamas, and I think it's the perfect matchup for Josh Emmett. He's really fast and explosive. His wrestling is, you know, we've never really got to see his wrestling so much because he has so much power in his hands, and he's really explosive. And he's a very dynamic striker. I mean, he could switch orthodox to southpaw. He's got great footwork as well. So I think those are what's going to give Ricardo Lamas a lot of trouble. And, you know, don't get me wrong, I'm not taking Ricardo Lamas lightly because, like I said, I fought him. And he's been in the game for so long, over a decade. And, you know, dropping down to 45s, he made a real big name for his name at 45s. But this is definitely a fight that we can win, and I'm excited for it. I mean, this is probably one of the most exciting fights for me this year for the team and, you know, for Josh.
Danny Castillo, our guest here on MMA Junkie Radio. He'll be cornering Josh Emmett this weekend at UFC on Fox 26 versus Ricardo Lamas. He is not retired, folks, just so you know. And he is the head wrestling coach over at Team Alpha Male and one of many head coaches, as he has just finished explaining. All right, goes. What do you have for Danny Castillo?
Danny, there's a lot of weekends where you have multiple fighters going, and it seems like it's almost every weekend you have at least one guy going. What do you do to combat the highs and lows that come from winning and losing as a coach?
I think it's the athletes. You know, if we have a big loss, you know, I fly home Sunday, I get in the gym on Monday, and seeing 30, 20 guys eager to be on that mat, to get their shot, to bring the team up. So it's a combination of a lot of things, you know. That's why our team is so special. We keep pumping out fighters, man. I mean, what do we got, like 14 people in the UFC right now in our mat? I mean, any given Monday, you can get about 7 to 8 UFC guys on the mat. And they all want to have one goal, and that's to be the best in the world. And, you know, that excitement and that eagerness to train and to listen to what their coaches say is something that motivates me a lot. So, big win or not, I know that there's going to be another athlete on that gray mat ready to put it down for his team and to make a name for himself, because we have so many hungry fighters that are in there, and they see these guys that are just, you know, killing it right now. I mean, look at Benito. You know, he got his Contender Series fight. He won that fight. Had a fight on the main card on Fox, and you know, he really performed well. So there's a lot of people that are looking at his footsteps, and the kid's only 23 years old. You know, I mean, we got probably 4 guys that I've been training with for the last 10 years that were 12 and 14 years old that are now grown men that are making their way. And you know, Joseph Morales is another one. He's got a fight coming up next month or in February. And, you know, we got 2 guys that are trying out for the Ultimate Fighter right now, so fingers crossed for those guys. And if not, I think the Contender Series is a great way to develop talent. And even if they don't get the UFC contract, they're still medically cleared and ready to go at the drop of a dime. I mean, you know, guys get hurt all the time. And, you know, if they're already in the Contender Series and they put a good fight, you know, I feel like that's a great, you know, that's a great way to go to and pull fighters that if you need someone in the pinch.
Danny, your personal business, when you go there, like, Can MMA, can you turn it off? Does it always have to be in your bed, or does your personal business allow you almost an escape from MMA for a little bit?
I don't think there's ever an escape from MMA for me. I've been an athlete my whole life. I've been a wrestler. I've been training my whole life, so it's never really an escape. But it's different for me because the reward I get is seeing other people, not so much just fighters, but other people getting better. And I think that's one of the most important things in life is doing what you can to help other people and better themselves. And when someone thanks you for them doing something that they've never done before, it's kind of an incredible feeling. And that's why I try to do as much charity work as I can, because I feel like it's good for the soul. And God only knows how much messed up shit I've done in my life, so it's always good to give back and pay it forward.
With the holidays coming up, what pair of kicks is at the top of Danny Castillo's wish list?
Oh man, that's tough. I've been kind of staying away from the sneaker game.
Why?
Because it's screwed up for me because I had a bunch of stuff that was retroed and then they bought it back and they redo the same exact shoe, and it's like I have a shoe that was re-released in 2000 and they just released a new pair in 2017, so my value of the shoe doesn't really hold any value anymore. So the sneaker game's kind of messed up right now, but I've been wearing a lot of Vapor Maxes lately, and that's probably one of my favorite shoes right now.
Well, Danny, we had Justin Buchholz on a couple weeks ago, and he brought up a really interesting point I don't hear a lot of people talk about, and that's the mental attitude and levels of working with a fighter. Now, I've only had limited experience cornering, amateur fighters on circuits, but it seems very important that people don't understand that your attitude is such an important deal, the attitude of those surrounding the fighter. Can you maybe speak on that? Because not only are you jumping all around from, training fighters, your personal business, cornering fighters all around, but that mental, that mental fatigue, that mental endurance. Can you speak on that a bit?
Yeah, man, you just got to go into a fight week, and fight week's more about having fun than anything. For some specific fighters, they have more weight to cut than anything, and that's probably one of the worst parts about the sport. But, my job is when I get off the plane, is make sure that the fighter has everything he needs to have a successful fight week, to make the weight cut, and to be mentally prepared. So it's always positive reinforcements, positive talks, going over the game plan, and just trying to crack as many jokes and have fun and do fun things during this fight week. I mean, God knows when the next time I'll be in Winnipeg, but we're definitely going to try to go see some museums and sightsee a little bit and keep the fighter's mind off the fight, because that's one of the most exhausting things ever. You get off the plane and you're thinking about being locked in a cage and, what to do and what not to do, and just it's kind of mentally draining on you. For me, I can't speak for everyone else. Some people like to be in the fight, thinking about the fight the whole time. But for me, it's like, it doesn't really matter. It's a fight. If I walk down the lobby and someone pushed me, I'd get into a fight. I wouldn't prepare about, someone trying to steal my stuff. It's, at the end of the day, it's a fight. There's thousands of people watching it, but, if someone pushed your mom on the ground, you'd fight. You wouldn't think about the game plan. You wouldn't think about too much of it. You'd just go in there and scrap. And I think, for some of the younger guys, I try to tell that to them. It's like, it's just another day, in the gym. If someone was trying to start stuff with you, you defend yourself and you fight to the best of your capabilities. It's not to worry about the hype, not to worry about the money, not to worry about the fans, not anything. Just going in there with a clear mind and, being ready to fight to the last minute.
Well, having someone like yourself, your experiences yourself is priceless in that corner for sure. But just to add and finish up on that, Danny, would you say maybe your with all these experiences, would your time management maybe have gotten better too over the years? Because I'm really impressed, whether it's guys like Eryk or any of the people with these traveling shows that have to travel. Time management seems to be a real big theme. Is that something that's improved in your personal?
Fight week, I don't know. I guess I'm better at packing and getting to the airport on time. But I don't really think time management is really that much of something that I've improved on, or something that I really need to work on so much.
Right.
I'm not sure what to say about that. I mean, I've been doing it more. I've been living out of a suitcase. Sometimes I get off the plane, I put my suitcase right in front of the washer, I take all that shit out, put it in the washer, put it in the dryer, and throw it right back in the suitcase and leave the next day. So I guess, the time management wise that way, that would definitely help, I guess.
Sounds like Justin's routine, huh, guys?
Yeah, a lot. Yeah, I wanted to clear something up. He actually owns a Pilates studio. I kept referring to it as his personal business, and so did Dan. I don't want people to think he's got drama going on. We're talking about his Pilates studio is what we're...
Do you still have 2 of them, Danny, or just one?
Oh, yeah. I got 2 now. I'm hopefully going to open another one this year. Probably about 20, 30 miles away. It's just, now that I've been coaching a lot, it's been definitely taking more time away from my personal business. But, I have a good support system. My best friend is my business partner, and we just hired my sister full time, so she's the studio manager, and she manages both. So I'm fortunate enough to step away from my personal business and still be able to travel and do as much traveling and coaching as possible. So, I'll go over and practice at the gym, and then go to my Pilates studio, teach a class, and then deal with the Pilates business portion of it, and then have the rest to work with the fighter individually, or get my own workout in, or take one of the classes. I mean, that's one of the things I've been trying to do lately is to take some of the other coaches' classes. That way we kind of coincide together, and if they're showing something, there's something I might be able to show in the wrestling class that matches up perfectly. So that way that week's curriculum kind of coincides with other coaches, and once the coaches we're together on the same level, then that's when, as you see, there's been a ton of success with the team, and I feel like the more that the coaching staff is together and working on things, Uriah's done an amazing job of making sure that the coaches are being taken care of. He brought in a sponsor. They're paying my salary, and he put together an office for us, so now we have an office, and just making things. He's just giving us the tools to be better coaches, and I think that's another reason for our success. And I'm super thankful for the man. Uriah's been my homie since I was like 14 years old. We've been wrestling together, and he's doing an amazing job of being a great mentor now. And even the coaches, he has so much patience. He's been working with some people that probably shouldn't be on the mat. But he has so much information, and he's so willing to help, and such a good dude that, he's sitting there and doing that. I don't know how he does it sometimes, but, he's definitely an awesome guy, and he's a Hall of Famer for sure.
Danny, thanks for letting us catch up with you. We really appreciate it. Good luck this weekend for Team Mehmet versus Ricardo Lamas. It's going to be a great fight. I cannot wait for it. And just a quick update, we're still at the Mandalay Bay, so pop on by anytime if you're in Vegas. You've only been in Vegas about 50 times since the last time we saw you, so we already know we rank low on your things to do list, but we'd still love to have you back in studio.
Anytime I'm in Vegas, you guys have a big fight card, and there's fighters that need to be out there and promote their fights. I understand, man. I have a fighter that I'm working with all the time, so sometimes the times don't match up. But man, I've been coming on the show forever. I love you guys. And, you guys got a great thing, and I appreciate what you guys do for MMA. And it's about the fight game, and not so much the drama with you guys. And I really appreciate that with the questions that you ask, and the questions were pretty cool. I thought I was just going to have to deal with a bunch of drama questions, and I'm glad that. You kept it fight specific, and I really do appreciate you guys.
All right, thanks, buddy. Good luck this weekend. We'll talk to you soon.
All right.
All right, see you. All right, folks, that's Danny Castillo, one of the head coaches over at Team Alpha Male. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we got 2 guests left. We are going to be talking to Sadiq Yusuf and Eryk Anders. Stay close. It's MMA Junkie Radio on Sirius XM, Rush 93. Holly, that's Channel 70, and Holiday Traditions, that's Channel 4. You can get our complete holiday lineup at SiriusXM.com/holiday. All right, continuing on. A lot of interviews today, but we're excited. A lot of young cats, man. A lot of, we can call them future prospects, or, they're on that radar of greatness, or, possibly taking next steps. I don't know. However you want to describe it. I'm really excited about just a lot of the young fighters. Not just the ones we're talking to today, but a lot of the ones we've seen in the past few weeks just taking that next step. All right, our next guest, Sadiq Yusuf. He joins us now on MMA Junkie Radio. He'll be headlining Titan FC 47 this Friday. And, of course, you can watch the fights on the UFC Fight Pass. He's in that main event. He'll be featured against Luis Gomez. Yusuf brings a record of 5-0. Gomez is 5-1. Joining us now is Sadiq Yusuf. What's up, Sadiq? How you doing?
How you doing, man? I'm feeling great.
Awesome. Thanks for joining us here on MMA Junkie Radio. We're excited to have you. But the first thing I want to ask you is, with the Ultimate Fighter having their big focus is the undefeated, right? It was a press that we had gotten or whatever. Were you ever close to maybe exploring that, being that you're an undefeated fighter and you're one of the weight classes they were interested in?
Yeah, I was really I was struggling between doing the Ultimate Fighter tryouts or fighting for this belt. But, I figured the belt would be a better opportunity for me to get a call in rather than the show. And honestly, even after I fight for this belt, hopefully I still get a chance to try out for the show and have a little better leverage of joining in. Because I think the show they're doing like 3 weight classes at auditions. So, it's not really a sure shot that they're going to do my weight class. So I want to try to put myself in a better position to where even if they don't do my weight class, I'm building up my record to get into the UFC anyways.
Man, that's pretty cool to hear. And anybody from Titan that hears it is probably excited that a fighter is excited to be on the show just as much as they're excited to feature them. Now, the good thing is Titan FC has always been UFC friendly, So when it's time, they know it, and they'll assist you in moving on. So, yeah, that's great. And what I admire about your decision is, of course that's a big opportunity, but, you are stuck in a house with, 16, 32 other dudes, however the season breaks down, and it can be a painful process. And now that it seems like a fighter that has an upside like yours, because we've heard about you, you have this opportunity at Titan FC on the UFC Fight Pass, maybe defend the belt. There's Dana White Contender Series. There's also just being in shape and taking the call. So seems like you put a lot into your decision.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. There's plenty of ways into the big leagues now without having to go through the Ultimate Fighter tryout. And another thing that really pushed my decision was the opponent matchup. The guy I'm fighting was on the Contender Series, which I didn't get a chance to be on that show. So I figured me having him on my record would be an even better look than going for that tryout for the Ultimate Fighter,
That's a good point. And, fighters like Jake Shields, Daniel Cormier, Gilbert Melendez, a lot of them, the casual fan knows about them once they made it to the UFC, but they don't realize a lot of the other things they did. And if you ask any of those guys, I could name off many more, but those 3 just jumped off. They're really proud of the belts that they acquired, like at King of the Cage or Elite XC or Rumble on the Rock. You know what I mean? It represented something at that time. It's still gold. You know what I mean? It's still silverware, and they are very, very proud of a lot of those regional belts or whatever, however you want to categorize a certain promotion. So good on you, man, to go after a belt.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right. Let me turn it over to Goz, my co-host here. One of 2 co-hosts. Goz, what do you have for Sadiq Yusuf?
Sadiq, we've actually heard about you for quite some time. We've had people come in the studio and talk about you and show us some of your fights. And the one thing that always stands out is just how explosive you are and how young you are. How much time do you think you'll have in this weight class? And do you anticipate yourself going up at any point?
That's the second time I got that question this week. Well, I make the weight's not hard for me. So, I mean, I might go up in the future just to mess around because, they say it gets a lot harder the older you get. But right now, I've been making the weight pretty consistently. And honestly, my last 3 fights has been a lot easier than it was before, only because I'm learning my body better and I'm actually following a pretty good process. But I think I'll be in 145 for a while. I have pretty good power here and pretty good cardio. Once I feel like my gas tank is taking a hit because of the weight cut or something, then I'll definitely move up. But as long as I feel good, I'm gonna be at 145 for a while. Maybe late into the career I'll move up, but 45 is my home.
How much fun are you having being a professional fighter? And is it something that you can officially hang your hat on and say, this is what I'm going to be doing for the rest of my life? While my body allows it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. This is what I wanted to do since I was a kid, you know? Like, I have writings on my wall in the morning that tells me, hey man, you're living the best life you can right now, and you're happy. You know, this is what I've always wanted to do. I've always wanted to be a professional fighter. My goal is to get into the UFC and be known as a world class fighter. You know, but this is definitely what I want to do for a living. It's pretty outside of coaching. I can't see myself pulling a regular 9 to 5. It has to be something within fighting, coaching, or some type of entertainment, you know. So yeah, this is definitely what I'm going to be doing for a long time.
You know, Sadiq, speaking of coaching and speaking of passion, which is something that you clearly aren't short on, which is good, but can you speak about maybe coaches or training partners, the people who inspire you? Obviously, you have a lot of inspiration yourself, but as far as the martial arts go, people that are helping you on your journey, anybody in particular?
Oh yeah, for sure. Like my Lloyd Irvin, is my head coach. And one of my main training partners is James Vick, and Vick inspired me a lot. You know, I saw him from the beginning of his UFC career to where he's gotten himself now through just hard work, putting his nose to the ground and getting it done. You know, so he's a pretty big motivation, and you know, being side to side next to him and seeing everything that he's doing to accomplish his goals, it's pretty easy to just like, man, I'm pretty self motivated. But having people around you that are also self-motivated, trying to accomplish the same thing you're doing, and they're a little bit further ahead of the line than you are, is only more positive reinforcement.
Wow, right on. And, you know, from James Vick to Lloyd Irvin, not only are those two, you know, experienced cats in their own right, but they're also, you know, from at least from what I gather from interviews and experience, very sharp individuals mentally. Do you get a lot of these, you know, mental attributes, you know, mental tricks, mental tips, if you will, from your coaches and training partners?
Yes, sir. It's kind of the mental stuff is just like a way of living. They get on me pretty hard because I'm not a big reader, and those two, they're pretty big into reading. But I listen to a lot of like audio stuff, like audiobooks and TED Talks and stuff like that, just to work on like the mental part of the game, because they're really big into that stuff. It's just I have a hard time with obtaining stuff through reading. You know, I lose focus pretty easily when I'm reading, but it's 2017. You don't have to grab a book. You can always listen to people talk and listen to audiobooks and stuff like that. But yeah, they're definitely big into that mental stuff.
I like it. All right, Sadiq Yusuf, our guest here on MMA Junkie Radio. He'll be fighting Luis Gomez in the main event at Titan FC 47. It takes place on Friday, and this is for the featherweight title. So, Sadiq, thank you very much for the time. Leave us with this, though. What's your prediction for Friday night? How's this fight end?
Hey, thank you all for having me, man. Yeah, tune into the fight. I'm pretty sure I'm going to get a finish around the third or fourth round. I'm going to put on beautiful display of striking. By the third or fourth round, I see myself dancing around him. I know he gets fatigued by the end of the second. So I see myself jabbing up his face and finishing with strikes third or fourth round.
There you go. All right, we'll be watching. Thank you very much for the time. Good luck on Friday night.
Thank you again, man.
All right, we'll see you. All right, folks, we're going to take our last break. That was Sadiq Yusuf, 5-0 overall, fighting at Titan FC 47. Catch those fights on the UFC Fight Pass this Friday. And shout out to Amanda Early for setting that one up. We'll be right back. We'll finish up with Eryk Anders coming off a big win at UFC Fight Night 123. Stay close.
compassion, common sense. These guys have none of that. You so you're no better. I am awesome, though. They are Gorgeous George and Goes.
All right, I'll leave it up to Goes, Dan, and Danny. Best of 3. You guys want me to talk about turning on the joy? You want me to talk about titties? Or you want me to talk about hunger?
Hunger.
Titties.
Not hunger, because I'm hungry.
That show's going to be interesting.
All right.
Get food.
SiriusXM wants you to turn on the joy this holiday season with your chance to win one of 4 all-star sporting experiences. The 2018 Pro Bowl in Orlando, the Honda NHL All-Star Game in Tampa, the NBA All-Star Game in Los Angeles, or the MLB All-Star Game in our nation's capital. And for those that went to public school, our nation's capital is Washington, D.C. For official rules and to enter, go to SiriusXM.com/All-Star Trip before January 2nd, 2018. No additional purchase is necessary to enter or win. This sweepstake is not sponsored or administered, produced, or executed by either the NHL entities, NBA entities, MLB entities, or the NFL entities. All right, we did a swing and a miss there with Eryk Anders. That could be my bad. We just kind of fell behind a little bit because of the amount of guests that we had. So I don't want to place the blame on this young gentleman. He's given us some great interviews. And frankly, we have to eat a little bit of crow because the last time we had him on, prior to his fight, Alabama was out of the top 4. They were number 5. But he still felt like one way or another, Alabama would be there, and they are. They made it.
I can't believe we did
because
that
of Auburn's loss.
What about your boy?
That is my boy, yeah.
What about your
I like
boy?
that. He's climbing up the ranks. I mean, Demetrius. Okay, I'm going to go here off the top of my head. Demetrius Johnson, T.J. Dillashaw, Max Holloway, Conor McGregor, Tyler. I don't believe any of the champions other than Cormier got off to a 10-0 start.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
I think only Cormier did. Even I know Stipe got clipped by Struve. He hadn't gotten to the 10th fight. And I know that Whitaker. Yeah. So, you know, can you imagine starting off 10-0 and having a winning mentality from Alabama? I mean, he must just be on an incredible high.
Oh, yeah.
He wants to go to Machida, which is a smart call-out whether he gets it or not. He was even willing to be the road warrior and go to Brazil because that's eventually what will put him over is that top 10 win.
Why don't we do this? You gave Dan and I an option. I'll give you an option.
Okay.
We can do MMA history today, or we can answer a question from Twitter.
Let's do both.
Yeah, but which one first?
Oh, let's get Danny involved.
All right, Danny, you want to do
You know,
MMA
personally,
history
I'm going
today?
to say this right now. I wish Danny would pipe up a little bit more. This isn't a throw on the bus or nothing, but I wish there was just times where Danny kind of made his presence known. And I'm willing to take a, hey, I got something to say. You know what I mean? I would really take that from his behalf.
Jesus, that was a
if
drop.
he were to just pipe in like that. Well, wait a minute, I got something to say. You know, what am I, a mirage over here?
Instead, he does the Jimmy Chiphook
He's
style,
really,
right?
really, yeah.
I
I
got
mean,
something to say.
he's the stealth bomber. He's just undercover. He's out there. He's producing. But I'd like to hear him a little bit more on the show because he's a pretty funny character. So yeah, let's do some Danny. MMA history today, Danny. What you got?
All right, so you guys kind of guessed this the other day. 2 years ago today, December 12th,
we already
2015. Know. Yeah,
I already know because Junkie did a story on it. Conor McGregor knocked out Jose Aldo.
Who's that guy?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
13 seconds, right, guys?
Ooh.
Yep. I think this is the first one.
Oh, no.
Goes down.
I got a rib cramp or something.
Sounds like it
Do a
hurts.
jumping jack.
Huh?
Do a jumping jack.
No.
Danny, mark
I'll
this
give
for
you
next
20 bucks
year's
if you do a
MMA.
jumping
It's
jack.
good. It's good.
I know. I'm just gonna say
The offer's off.
Anyway, but what's cool about this one is this is one of the earlier things that I remember because I've only been really experienced to MMA since being on this show. So This is one of the ones that I can actually say, I remember when that happened. I worked the post-fight show for this fight.
Think about it.
I remember watching this.
You had every right to go, what the fuck? This is the great Brazilian everyone's been talking about? You know what I mean? That fight's so misleading. If Conor were to fight Jose again, how many times would Conor win? I'm not saying he can't.
Out of 10?
Yeah, out of 10. Go back to 2015. that Jose, although before Max kind of.
I think Conor wins 3.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Versus Jose.
I was gonna just kind of go with the 5 and 5, but if I had to pick a 6-4 on either side, I may be with you. Yeah, Aldo. How about you, Dan?
4 or 5?
Yeah.
Shoot.
No 5-5. You got to do a 6-4, 7-3, 8-2, 9-1. Who would win more fights out of 10? Aldo and McGregor.
You know what? Now it's easy to say McGregor. I will say I'll put myself back in the 2015 mindset. I'll say Aldo. Even though I picked McGregor for that fight, I felt like Aldo could win more times out of 10. I just felt like it was McGregor's time.
Yeah.
In your scenario, though, they're all fighting for the first time, right? They're not learning off of each fight.
No, I think they're learning off of each fight.
Oh, they are?
So McGregor. So 6 months later, let's just say it was 6 months.
Aldo
was like, oh, okay, he's got a heavy left hand. You know, whatever. I got to throw more leg kicks.
Okay.
Aldo.
Still all.